This is a reminder, Class Connect sessions are recorded and distributed for learning purposes that are listed here. As always, be respectful, appropriate, and participate, but please don't share personal information during the class for your own security reasons. All right, so we are on the January 16th attendance ticket. I'm shooting it in the chat box again for those of you that came a little bit late. Please open that up. Give me a green check when you have it open and ready to go. Password is there for you as well. Let me know if you're having any issues with it, but let's see those green checks come in just so I know it's working for everyone. Hoy's Walk, sorry, I said that backward. Hoy's Walk on Sunset and La Brea. There's a Thai place in the valley that makes very good food. Awesome. Okay, yeah, I love it. Sharing good food. Excellent. All right, guys. I'm actually pretty close to Hollywood too, although it takes forever to drive there. I don't know why. There's just so much traffic, guys, in LA. Okay, so we've got 5 days left of quarter number 2. We are officially on a single hand. How do you guys feel about that? Tell me in the chat box. How are you feeling? 5 days left of quarter number 2. Oh my gosh, right? Yay! I know we have some graduates. It's going to be super, super exciting. Yeah, still more to go, yeah, but at least you'll get a little bit of a break. So remember, today we're going over our last lesson of the quarter. We're going over macromolecules. Everything else is going to be review and then the exam days where we'll go over the exam for you. Sorry, guys. So today we're going over macromolecules, which are a type of polymer, but they're specifically polymers for our bodies. Okay, so we've been talking all about organic chemistry. Now we're talking about what's happening in our actual bodies. Tomorrow we're having a review day for Unit 9 and Unit 10, because remember I was out on Monday. And then Friday is our final exam. Everything's been leading up to this final exam. We're going to do super well on it, just like we did really well on our midterm. You do have a 3-day weekend, and then Tuesday is the last part of the final exam. I know, Mikey. Fortunately, I can't just walk away and make a pot of tea. I'd be back in like 10 minutes. All right, so today we're talking all about macromolecules, proteins, carbs, lipids, and there's one I didn't mention, which is nucleic acids, which is not exactly a type of food group, but we'll explain why it's super important to our bodies. So our purpose for today, our objective, identify the purpose and the types of the 4 macromolecules that are essential to life, and at the end of class, we will be going over the 10B quiz. So here we go. Macromolecules. The natural macromolecules in your body are carbs, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. We've actually already talked about some synthetic macromolecules. Remember, plastics are organic because plastics are made from fossil fuels, which are made from dead dinosaurs and plants, which were all at one point living, right? So they are in fact organic molecules, even if we don't necessarily want to eat them like organic food, okay? Which is what we discussed yesterday. So here we go. In living organisms, there are 4, count them 4, classes of macromolecules that do occur naturally. They are listed right here for you. So we've got carbs, nucleic acids, proteins, and lipids. Remember, macromolecules, what does the word macro mean? Tell me in the chat box. What do you guys think the word macro means? What are some synonyms that we can come up for this prefix? The word macro. Yeah, major or large or other words. Major, large, jump in there. Your classmates are giving you ideas. Yeah, huge, big, right? So macro means big, big, big molecules. And the reason that they are big molecules is because they are actually polymers. And remember, poly means what? We talked about this yesterday. Poly means what? Macro means big. Poly means, yeah, a lot or multiple or many. Yeah, so these macromolecules are still polymers. They're still made up of many, many, many atoms together because they're made up of those repeating monomers, those little pieces that get linked together over and over again to make a big, big molecule. It's just that macromolecules, usually when we talk about macromolecules, we're talking about living organisms, so it means you and I. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Smiley faces, thumbs up if you understand. Macromolecules, another word for polymers in the body. Polymers in the body. Excellent. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. So here's the thing, guys. We're kind of leading into biology. How many of you have already taken biology? Did you have biology already? Awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, if you've taken biology, you should know a little bit about cells already. Hopefully you know a lot about cells, but in case we don't remember, cells are the smallest complete unit of life. So a single cell is considered living. So if you were to take a cell off of your hand, look under it under the microscope, it would be considered a living organism, okay? Now, or a living tissue, right? A living cell. Sorry, I'm using other terms to say that, but really, it's a complete living unit in and of itself. Okay, that's why like bacteria is a single-celled organism. Bacteria is living. Smiley faces if that makes sense. A single cell is living. Okay, smallest complete unit of life. Cool. Now, on the other hand, where we started off in this entire course talking about chemistry is we started off with atoms, which atoms are the smallest non-living complete unit of matter, right? So atoms themselves do not have life, but they are the smallest unit of matter that is still itself, right? Gold is still gold, even if it's a gold atom. But what we've been doing is we've been kind of putting those atoms together. We've been making molecules, and now we're going to see as more and more molecules come together, we create macromolecules, and those macromolecules are all going to be working within the cell. So we're building up from non-living to living, okay? So here we are when we're talking about cells. They are much larger than atoms, but again, they are still the smallest thing that is considered living. So here we go. Within the cell, there are again 4 macromolecules. The first is carbohydrates, and carbohydrates are the main source of energy, specifically short-term energy for your body. So when you go running for the first 20 minutes or so, your body is using carbohydrates. As you move around your house, as you're doing things, you are using carbs. There are also the cell walls in plants. Now, you and I don't have cell walls because are we rigid beings? Think about like a carrot versus yourself. Are you rigid? No, so we don't have cell walls, but plants do have cell walls, and their cell walls are made up of carbohydrates. We'll learn a little bit later that specifically that's called fiber. Carbs can also, some of their other jobs are they signal between cells, and they're found in sugary and starchy foods. So you can see over here, this is a picture of some carbs. We've got some fruits, some veggies, some grains, some beans. These are all things that are carbohydrates, yes. I don't know if you can live in a freezer. maybe if you are no longer living and in a freezer. No. So how many of you guys have ever heard this term carbo loading? Have you guys ever done sports? For example, when I was in high school, I did tennis and cross country and track and field. And before our events, we would do what's called carbo loading. And what do you eat when you're carbo loading? What do we eat when we're carbo loading? It happens a couple days, like the night before or a couple days before. Yeah, you eat sugar and what? So sugar's not the best carbo loading, but a lot of it's like pasta and breads. You'll eat that a couple days before because it gives you lots of energy to use on your sports. Now, if you don't use up that energy, it'll eventually turn into fats. Your body will process it and put it into long-term storage, which is not as good. So you got to use it, okay? Now, that being said, lipids are fats, okay? So lipids are another name for the category of fats, oils, and waxes. And these are our long-term storage. So carbs, short-term or main source, lipids, long-term. Okay, now the lipids are good. Fats, in fact, are good, right? They're used for insulation. They help to protect your organs. Without fats, you would have no lubrication between your joints, and it would be extremely painful to move, and you could be injured very, very easily. So lipids are important. Fats are important, okay? They also make up your cell membranes. So if you were, again, to look at a single one of your cells and zoom in super, super close, you'd be able to see that they are made up of a lipid membrane, which is a fat membrane encircling your cell. And they also are chemical messengers in your body. So your hormones and steroids, a lot of these hormones and steroids are made of lipids. So fats might seem scary a lot of times, but again, they are super important. Now the problem becomes, what happens when we start eating too many fats? Tell me in the chat box. Right? So again, fats have a very important, good job in your body, but what happens when we start eating too much? Same thing with carbohydrates, because I told you carbs do get converted into long-term storage eventually. Yeah, you become the potato, yes. Yes, you begin to gain weight, and that fat builds up and gets stored, and too much fat on your body can become bad, right? So yeah, too much of a good thing, again, can become something that is bad for your body, like most things. Okay, so just a really quick, I want to show this to you really quick because, again, this is kind of biology, and I know biology might be kind of further away in our memories. So this is an animal cell and a plant cell. And again, animal cells are not rigid. So you can see on its border, it has a cell membrane, but no cell wall. Plants, on the other hand, actually have both a cell membrane and a cell wall. So again, cell membrane is made up of lipids, and then the cell wall is made up of carbohydrates. And plants have both. Okay? Yeah, it can cause heart problems. It can cause so many health problems. So we got to make sure that we're not eating too many fats, too many carbs, and that we're using them, right? You can actually get rid of carbs and fats by using that energy storage. Okay? All right, now proteins and nucleic acids are the second two. So proteins have many, many roles. Your body is actually mostly proteins. So proteins make your muscles. So your muscles are made up of proteins. That's why what you see those commercials with those big buff people that are like, you should eat protein powder. They're just eating protein powder by the spoon, and it's really disgusting and nasty. I don't know if you guys have ever had protein powder, but it tastes gross. I mean, I know you're supposed to mix it into something, but it still tastes gross. But the whole idea is by eating lots of protein, you can help to build stronger muscles. Now, your hair and your nails are actually also made up of proteins, and they are kind of rigid structures. So, in fact, the protein that makes up your hair and nails is actually also the same protein that is found in a rhino's horn. Okay. They are used to transport oxygen in your blood. Is that an important job? What do you guys think? Transporting oxygen in your blood? Yes, no, good thing? Yeah, I mean, some protein powders can be good. Yeah, of course it's a good thing. There are many enzymes throughout your digestive system that help to digest food, and your immune system has what are called antibodies, which are the fighters. Okay, the fighters that help your body to overcome illness. Now, nucleic acids are the hereditary material found in all organisms. So you, me, your dog, your cat, your plants, a fungus, yeast, bacteria, everything is built from the same hereditary material, which is part of why we know that things are related to each other, right? Because we actually all are made with the same hereditary material, the same genes. So DNA there's a picture of DNA right here, which we'll go over more. But nucleic acids are the blueprint or the instructions that give your cells the directions to build proteins. So nucleic acids and proteins are related. Nucleic acids are the instructions, proteins are the results. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Nucleic acids are the instructions, proteins are the result. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and match these up. Let's make sure this makes sense. We've got our 4 different things. We want to know what are their purposes. Go ahead and match up their purposes. You've got some options here. Long-term energy, hereditary material, short-term main energy, muscles, enzymes, antibodies. Go ahead and match those up. Let me know what you think. There we go. Keep on working. Give you a few more moments, 10 more seconds. I'm going to get my tools ready as well. Looking good, looking good. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get your answers up there. Going to pause your tools. Thank you guys for participating. Remember, participation is not for my sake, it's for your sake so that you are learning. So here we go. Carbohydrates, yes, these are our main source of energy or our short-term energy. Lipids are the long-term energy storage. Again, we don't want too many lipids to build up because that can be bad for our health. Proteins have many roles. They are involved in our muscles, enzymes, and antibodies. And nucleic acids are our hereditary material or the blueprints for all organisms, the instructions. All right, this is numero uno in your attendance ticket, number 1 in your ticket. Go ahead, give me a green check when you have it saved. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys 40 seconds. Ready, set, go. Looking good. Waiting on Angelina, Ciara, Dalen, Elijah. Green checks, Jacob, Jackie. Thank you, Johnny. Waiting on Josh. Melissa, Saul, Stephen and Stephen, and Ty. Make sure I get your green checks, please, for number 1. Uh-oh, sorry. Looking good, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some examples. So we're going to go ahead and compare these and talk about different types of examples. So carbohydrates, we talked a little bit about this already, are sugars and starches. So these sugars are called simple carbohydrates. So here's the thing, guys. Again, many things are actually good for your body, even if you've kind of learned through like, I don't know, internet and learning about health that like they're not good for you. But simple carbohydrates can be good for you. For example, what on this list right here is probably still pretty good for you, even though it's a simple carbohydrate, even though it's a sugar. Go ahead, tell me in the chat box. Take a look at this list right here. Which ones are probably still pretty healthy for you? Yeah, milk is pretty good for you, and not steak fries, but fruit, right? So both of these two things, fruit and milk, are actually made up of simple sugars. That is why fruit tastes sweet, because it has fructose in it, all right? So bananas, apples, this is why most people like fruit more than vegetables, because fruit is sweet. How many of you guys like fruit more than vegetables? I definitely do. I do not like vegetables very much. Yeah, exactly. So the reason we like it is because it's sweet. It's easier for our bodies to digest. It gives us very, very fast energy. Now, milk is actually also a simple carbohydrate. So when you drink milk, the reason that we like milk so much is because milk actually tastes sweet as well. So you might not notice that right away, but milk actually does taste sweet. And candy obviously also has sugar in it, and candy is made up of a type of sugar called sucrose, or table sugar. Yeah, I know, I'm lactose intolerant too, but I just deal with the consequences. Although obviously if you're allergic to milk, that's a little bit different too. Cool. Now, complex carbohydrates are things like starches and fiber. And starches are things like wheat, rice, potatoes, peas, and beans. So these ones really, really fill you up. How many of you like potatoes? I know somebody yesterday said that they really liked potatoes. Was it Ariana? Yeah. So if you really like potatoes, the reason you love potatoes so much is because potatoes are chock full of energy. So they're full of these complex carbs that break down, right, into sugars that give you energy, but they give you longer term energy, which is why they are so filling. Now, the other thing is that all plants, whether they're fruit or wheats or grains or vegetables, all plants have fiber, because fiber is the structure that builds them. So fiber is a type of carb, and the structure, the firmness that comes from plants comes from that carbohydrate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there are some things that still contain milk that you can have even if you're lactose intolerant, because it's actually processed. So the lactose can actually be processed by a type of bacteria, which is often true in cheese and yogurt and things like that. And so it actually breaks it down, and so it doesn't hurt your stomach as much, right? So it actually breaks it down into glucose and galactose, two simple sugars. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So these fibers cannot actually be broken down by your body. So your body actually can't use those fibers, but it does help with digestion because it helps to move things through your body. So basically, they help you to poop well. Okay? I know, that is cool, right, Sienna? I'm just kidding. I think you were responding to something else. But now lipids, right, fats, again. Fats include things like butter, lard, and shortening. These are the solid ones. Oils are going to be liquids, so canola oil, olive oil, vegetable oil. Which kind of fat do you guys prefer to cook with? So I, for example, prefer to cook with olive oil. I like the flavor of olive oil. But if I'm really, really craving it, I'll use butter because butter's delicious. Right? Waxes are going to be things like the waxy covers of plants, beeswax, earwax. These are all things that are also lipids. Yeah, please don't cook with earwax. Waxes aren't things that are meant to be cooked with, but they are still lipids. Yeah, yeah. Vegetable oil is super nice because vegetable oil is much nicer on the budget. Olive oil can get a little bit pricey and expensive. Uh-oh. Yeah, that'd be bad, Zoe. And then there are also hormones in your body that are made of lipids. So, for example, cholesterol, which is the precursor to hormones in your body, is made of lipids. And this is found in egg yolks and red meat. And again, cholesterol might sound like a bad word. How many of you are like, oh, you can't have high cholesterol, that's bad for you? You guys know what I'm talking about? So cholesterol is kind of a trigger word where it's like, oh, it could be bad for you. But in reality, cholesterol is really important because it's the building block for many of your hormones, most specifically testosterone and estrogen, which are in charge of your sexual development. Okay, so testosterone and estrogen are extremely important in turning you from a child into an adult. So without cholesterol, this would not be able to happen. So cholesterol is important, but again, too much of a good thing can be bad. All right, so here's what I want to go show you guys. So here is the cell membrane. Okay, kind of zoomed in on the outside of a cell. And the cell membrane is mostly made up of lipids, okay, mostly made up of fats. So your cells need fat because they're mostly made up, their border is mostly made up of fats. But you can also see there's a couple other things in here too. So there's actually also proteins in here. And there's actually also carbohydrates in here. So your cells need all of these things. guys are funny. Cool. So here we go. Proteins. Some sources of proteins are going to be meat, eggs, milk, nuts, and beans. Which of those are your favorite? I'm pretty partial to meat and eggs. I actually grew up on a on a horse ranch, and we raised chickens. So I was in charge of raising the chickens. So I ate like five eggs a day. Probably contributes to my high cholesterol today. Too much eggs, but I love eggs. Yeah, so these are the sources of protein. So if you want to get bigger muscles while you're working out, it's important to make sure you get these foods because they help to build protein in your body. So, for example, your muscles are made up of proteins called actin and myosin. Your hair and nails, I think Mikey mentioned it, are made up of something called keratin. And hemoglobin is the protein responsible in your body for transporting oxygen in your blood. You can actually see a picture of it right here. This is a picture of hemoglobin carrying oxygen in your blood. Now, digestion, amylase in your mouth actually breaks down carbohydrates. Pepsin in your stomach actually breaks down proteins. And lipase in your small intestine breaks down fats. So these are important as well to break down the other things that you are eating. So here's the thing I wanted to show you guys. How many of you guys like Ritz crackers? I'm a big fan of them with Nutella. Some good stuff. Yeah, so I have some Ritz crackers here. And what I want you guys to think about is, why do you like Ritz crackers? Tell me in the chat box. Why are they so delicious? Why are Ritz crackers so delicious for those of you that like them? Because it's Ritz. Oh, do you want a cracker? Yeah, they're salty. Yeah. Okay, here's the thing though, guys. The reality is that the reason your body loves Ritz crackers is, yes, Mikey, they're actually sweet. They taste kind of sweet. So the thing is that this is a carbohydrate, and when you eat it, okay, you don't even actually need to chew it. Your saliva can actually break it down because your saliva has a protein in it that actually breaks it down and turns it into sugars. So amylase in your mouth is actually breaking this down and turning it into sweet sugars, which is why they are so delicious. It melts in your mouth, exactly. This is actually true even for breads, right? If you chew on breads for a long time, they actually can disappear from your mouth. How many of you have ever done that? Tried to chew a food for so long that it actually disappears without you ever needing to swallow your food? It's kind of weird, but I like to do it because I'm a scientist and I just think it's super cool because there's actually proteins in your mouth that are breaking it down. It's super cool, guys. Science is awesome. Cool. Okay, now, while I finish eating that, the last one, nucleic acids. Examples of nucleic acids are, let's go ahead and say these. Deoxyribonucleic acid is the main one. Deoxyribonucleic acid, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is DNA. Hi guys, can you hear me? All right, so DNA here is deoxyribonucleic acid. That's where the D, N, and A come from. So DNA is going to be the main genetic material in cells. This is the blueprint that helps to build your body, and it has a double helix structure. Take a look down here, guys. Do you guys see DNA? How it looks like it has a double, like, ladder kind of twisty structure here. It's called a double helix. Okay, because it's got a helical structure, a twisty structure, and it also has two sides. Smiley faces, guys, if you can see that. Cool. Now, ribonucleic acid, RNA, so the R from ribo, the N from nucleic, and the A from acid. RNA, these are the workers in the cell that help to build the proteins using DNA's instructions. So proteins and nucleic acids are in fact related, okay? Again, DNA is the instructions, ribonucleic acids, RNA are the workers, and proteins are the result. They're what they're building, kind of like a factory. And then adenosine triphosphate, also known as ATP, adenosine A, tri-T, phosphate P. ATP is the energy molecule that is formed from digestion of food in order to fuel your muscles. So this is your energy currency, essentially. Okay, so take a look here, guys. This is what's called the central dogma, or transcription and translation. And transcription is where RNA comes in and copies the DNA, leaves the nucleus of the cell, and goes over to what's called a ribosome. And at that ribosome, it is then translated into a protein chain. Okay, so again, you can see DNA here as the instructions, RNA as the workers, and proteins as the final result. Proteins like your hair. This is why you have the color hair that you have. This is why you have the color skin that you have. This is why you are the height that you are, is because of this process. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Okay, so you can see them all working together here within the cell, within the human cell. Cool. Okay, you can also see here, I do want to show you guys why ATP is so important. So think about the fact that when you flex your muscles, go ahead, flex a muscle right now. Tell me which muscle you're flexing. So for example, flexing a muscle, right? So I'm flexing my bicep right here. Not super impressive. But what's happening when you're flexing your muscles is your muscles actually get shorter. Okay, they contract, they get shorter. So here's what's happening. ATP is actually allowing myosin and actin to interact in such a way that myosin is actually climbing up the actin. So imagine like you're climbing up a rope. I don't know if you ever had to climb a rope in gym class. I never did. I think that was like 3 generations ago. But anyways, so myosin actually goes up to actin and it begins to climb up it. And the only way it can climb up that to shorten it and bring it closer to itself is through ATP. So ATP is the energy that allows the myosin to grab onto actin and pull it closer and pull it shorter. Smiley faces if that makes sense. This is why ATP is so important. All of your food eventually gets turned into ATP. So all of your food actually, so what happens is your digestion system takes fats, proteins, and carbs and turns them all into sugar, and then that sugar undergoes a process that turns it into ATP for your muscles. Okay, so that's why it's so important. Cool, grab your tools. Let me know what these foods are related, or these examples are related to their macromolecules. So macromolecules and their examples, match those up. Let me know what you got. We now know the purpose. We now know the examples. Flexing your toe muscle. You guys are funny. You're like, what's the smallest muscle I could possibly use in my in my body? You know, interestingly enough, I don't know if any of you have this as well, but I actually have independent movement of my little pinky toes, so I can actually move them independent of the rest of my foot. Pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah, most people don't have the ability to move their pinky toe. Cool. All right, guys, let me go ahead and pause this. Yeah, you too. That's awesome. Yeah, my daughter has it too, so I'm super excited about that because I'm like, yes, you are my daughter. All right, guys, so carbohydrates, yes, these are sugars and starches. Lipids are going to be fats, oils, waxes, cholesterol, testosterone, estrogen, proteins, milk, eggs, meat, nuts, and beans. And nucleic acids are kind of unique. They're not exactly food groups, but they are DNA, RNA, and ATP. Excellent job. This is numero dos. Go ahead, give me a green check when you have number 2 saved. I'm going to go ahead and give you 40 seconds. Ready, set, go. Awesome. Waiting on a few more green checks. Ciara, Dayla, Destiny, Jacob, Jackie, Jeremy, Johnny, Josh, Kevin, Melissa, Saul, Seha, Stephen, Ty. Cat? Oh, am I a cat? Yeah, no, I have a lot of weird talents. Do you guys want to see? I can show you, but only if you actually want me to. Yeah. Yeah, so I can roll my tongue, right? But I can also stick it in half. Cool, guys. All right. So the last thing that we need to talk about is just their structure. Remember, all of these things we've been talking about are polymers or macromolecules. They are very, very big molecules that are made up of single repeating units called monomers. Remember, monomer is the small one, polymer is the big one. Smiley faces, remember that. Monomer is the small one, polymer is the big one. Repeating monomers makes a polymer. Okay, so here we go. For carbohydrates, the monomer, the single unit, is called a monosaccharide. Oh yeah, I have double jointed fingers as well. I know, I have lots of weird things. That's super cool though, Sienna. So monosaccharides, what does the word mono mean again? We actually already know this. What does the word mono mean? Yeah, it means one. So monosaccharide means one, and the word saccharide, kind of like that idea of like a saccharin person, means like an overly sugary sweet person that isn't super sincere. So saccharide means sugar. So one sugar, monosaccharide, one sugar. So this is the monomer, the single unit. It's a single sugar molecule. If you get 2 of them together, we just change the prefix and we call it a disaccharide. So what does di mean? In terms of prefixes, not the word, but what does the prefix mean? Yeah, it means 2, right? So disaccharide, 2 linked monosaccharides. And then if we get many of them together, it becomes a polysaccharide because, again, remember, poly means many. So polysaccharide, many linked monosaccharides. So in carbohydrates, we've got monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides. Smiley faces if that makes sense. Smiley faces if that makes sense. All three of those going on. Cool. You can see this here, right? So monosaccharides examples are glucose, fructose and fruit, galactose. Disaccharides are maltose, sucrose or table sugar, lactose, which is in milk. Polysaccharides are starch, glycogen, and cellulose. Okay. Now lipids are made up of glycerol head and fatty acids. The way you remember which one makes up lipids is because it says fatty, right? Saccharide, you think sugar, carbs. Lipids, you think fatty acids, fat, lipids. Okay, so glycerol head and fatty acids are the building blocks for lipids. Lipids are hydrophobic or water hating. So here's my example here. Okay, here I have some water. What do you guys think happens when I pour some oil into it? What happens when I pour oil into it? Oh, you want more crackers? It separates. No, it does not explode. Okay, so here we go. I'll show this to you. Right, so can you guys see how there's a layer of oil here at the top? It's a little bit hard to tell, but can you guys see how there's a layer of oil now at the top? Yeah, don't touch me. Yeah, so lipids are hydrophobic, hydro meaning water, and phobic meaning fearing. So they're hydrophobic, water fearing, or water hating. So for example, triglycerides in butter have a glycerol head and 3 fatty acid tails. Phospholipids in your cell membrane have a phosphate glycerol head and 2 tails. So if you see these tails, you know it's a lipid, it's a fat. And the tails are the reason they hate water. Okay, cool. The last two are proteins and nucleic acids. Proteins, the monomer is the amino acid. So aminos, you think proteins. The polymer, take many amino acids, put them together, you get a polypeptide chain. If you fold that up, that's then a protein. You can see that picture here. So amino acids come together to make a peptide. That makes a protein. Now the thing is, there are actually only 20 amino acids in the entire world, okay? But the cool thing is because you can link them in any order with a bunch of different amounts of them, I'm not going to drink it. There are over 20,000 proteins known. Okay, it's kind of like how you can have 20 shirts and pants, but you can have infinite number of outfits because of how you can match up all of those shirts and pants. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Thumbs up if that makes sense. I know. Hopefully I don't lose my voice for the second class. The last one is nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, if you were to take DNA and untwist it, you would get this ladder structure that you can see here. And one of the ladder units is what's called a nucleotide. On one side of the ladder, a single unit is called a nucleotide. And it's made up of a sugar, you can see S for sugar here, a phosphate, P, as well as a nitrogenous base. So it has nitrogen in it, okay? So this right here repeats, and makes up our DNA. So nucleotides, you think nucleic acids. All right, let's go ahead and match these up. Let's make sure that makes sense, guys. Carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, which ones are their... what are you doing with all the crackers? What are you doing? Which ones are the monomers? Oh, now I'm stepping on a cracker. Excellent. Looking good, guys. Eat crackers. Awesome. 5 more seconds. And pausing. Looking good. All right, so carbohydrates. Yes, carbohydrates are made up of the monomer called monosaccharides. Mono meaning single, saccharide meaning sugar. Lipids are made up of a glycerol head and fatty acid tails. We know fat means lipids. Proteins are made up of amino acids. That's the only one that doesn't exactly have a way to remember it. But you know, because nucleic acids are made up of nucleotides, they both start with the same, 5 letters, that proteins are the one left over. So awesome. This is number 3. Give me a green check when you have it saved. You have 40 seconds. Ready, set, go. Green checks all around. Faster we get the green checks, the faster we can end class. You are breaking all of the crackers. I'm sorry. I'm going to take these away from you because you're just slamming the crackers together. 30 seconds, guys. Go, go, go. First science. 10 seconds. Awesome. Just waiting on Angelina, Annalise, Ciara, Dalen, Destiny, Elijah, Haley, Jacob, Josh, Kevin, Melissa, Saul, Seha, Ty. She does watch a lot of Star Trek, so she loves the Star Trek song from Next Generation. She rocks back and forth. I'll show you guys a video sometime. She loves it. Cool, guys. All right, let me go ahead and give you your quiz for today. So make sure you keep the attendance ticket open. Do the quiz because all the answers are in the attendance ticket in those yellow boxes, and you will be all set for today and all done. And here is the last word. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all later. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Okay, remind me tomorrow, Ariana, and I will find a video of it. Bye, Kendra. Yeah, no, that's not good, Zoe. Don't put aluminum. Don't put metal in the microwave.